Welcome back, everyone, for our 7th deep dive.
7th already.
I know, right? We're looking at James Madison giving his second inaugural address.
Okay.
It was 1813.
Right.
We've got some really great analysis from Dr. Jareau Almeyda to guide us through it. And he actually holds a PhD in information systems, too.
Wow.
Yeah, his dissertation was on the impact of COVID lockdowns on teachers.
Interesting.
Yeah, he used some pretty high-tech linguistic tools to analyze that whole situation.
Well, that definitely ties into what we're doing here, analyzing language and speeches.
Absolutely. All right, so James Madison, this is 1813, Second Inaugural Address.
It's interesting to see how a president's message changes from their first inauguration to their second,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You'd think the job would get easier,
Right.
but history often tells a different story.
For sure.
Especially for Madison.
Especially for Madison. Because 1813?
Yeah, 1813 was not a walk in the park.
No.
The War of 1812 was in full swing.
Oh, yeah, raging.
Talk about pressure. Dr. Almeyda's work really digs deep into this.
Okay.
It digs into how language is used to persuade and inspire.
Absolutely. And so let's paint a picture for our listeners here, because this is a situation that, maybe we haven't really thought about very much.
Right.
1813, War of 1812, raging. What's the vibe here?
So you have to imagine the United States as this very young nation.
Okay.
Ambitious, but trying to find its footing on the world stage.
Right.
And they're going head to head against Great Britain, which was the superpower at the time.
Right.
And things are not exactly going their way.
Yeah, no kidding. And on top of all of that, we also know that the average life expectancy was just 39 years old.
Can you imagine that?
I can't even imagine.
That means that the oldest voter would have been born before the American Revolution.
Wow.
That's setting the stage.
Crazy.
Right. So you've got this backdrop of war, uncertainty, people acutely aware of their own mortality. And into this steps James Madison, delivering his second inaugural address.
So this is where Dr. Almeyda points out this massive shift in tone from his first inaugural address.
Yeah.
In 1809, he's all about unity and avoiding foreign entanglements. And then we get to 1813, and he sounds like a completely different guy.
He does. He completely frames this war as this battle for American rights and sovereignty.
Wow.
He's not just defending the war. He's turning it into this fight for freedom itself.
That's clever. That's a good strategy.
It is.
Because it's like saying we didn't necessarily want this war, but now it's about something much bigger.
Exactly.
It's about who we are as a nation.
Exactly. And Dr. Almeyda highlights that Madison really pushes this idea of national unity.
Okay.
In fact, he uses the word nation more than any other single entity in this speech.
Oh, than anything else.
More than anything else. And he's using it to create this sense of us versus them.
Right.
And that's how he is uniting Americans under this common cause. And he does it with some linguistic flair.
Okay, I like it.
Dr. Almeyda points out that Madison uses very emotionally charged phrases.
Such as?
World's best hope.
Okay.
Sacred principle.
Gotcha.
This is classic American exceptionalism.
Yeah.
Reminding people that they're part of something truly special.
Okay. Now, it wasn't all sunshine and roses, though, was it?
Absolutely not.
Because the war was taking its toll.
Of course. But Dr. Almeyda also picks up on this. Madison uses words like upbraidings, depression. He acknowledges the difficulties and anxieties of the time.
Okay.
But he doesn't dwell on the negative. He actually uses it to inspire resilience.
Oh, it's a good strategy.
It is. Like to say, we've been through tough times before.
Right.
We'll get through this too.
So he's validating people's feelings.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's also urging them to stay strong.
Exactly.
That's tough.
It's a delicate balance to strike. And Madison manages to pull it off. He uses what are called rhetorical devices.
Okay.
Like parallelism and antithesis.
Now, for those of us who haven't taken a rhetoric class lately, what is parallelism and antithesis?
Good question.
And why should our listener care?
So parallelism is when you use similar grammatical structure to emphasize similar or connected ideas.
Okay.
Think about it like the lyrical hook in a song.
Okay.
It makes the language memorable and persuasive.
So Madison's dropping some sick rhymes here.
Kind of. And then antithesis is where you contrast opposing ideas.
Gotcha.
This makes the argument stronger.
Okay.
And really makes the differences super clear.
All right. So I can see how he's using these techniques to inform people about the war, but also to persuade them.
Exactly.
To rally them to the cause.
And he taps into their emotions, their sense of patriotism, even their fears.
Right.
He reminds them of the American Revolution.
Okay.
And draws parallels between that fight for freedom and the current struggle against Great Britain.
Like, look, we did it before.
Yes.
We can do it again.
Yeah. He connects the past to the present, invoking this shared history of overcoming challenges to inspire confidence and commitment.
And that is the power of language.
It is.
It's not just conveying information, but it's about shaping perceptions, influencing emotions,
absolutely,
and ultimately moving people to action.
Exactly.
So we've got this picture of Madison, wartime president, trying to unite the nation and win the war. But here's what I'm wondering. If Madison was so concerned with national unity, why didn't he address the elephant in the room? Slavery.
That is a very good question. And one that historians continue to debate to this day.
Well, we'll have to dig into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
So before the break, we were talking about this glaring omission. In Madison's speech, slavery.
It's fascinating how something that's not said can speak volumes.
It really can, especially when you consider that one of the big triggers for the War of 1812 was the British practice of impressment. Basically, kidnapping American sailors and forcing them into the British Navy.
And the ironic part is that a lot of those impressed sailors were actually escaped slaves who had sought refuge on British ships.
So the United States, by fighting Great Britain, was, in a sense, also fighting to preserve the institution of slavery.
It's complicated.
It's very complicated.
It's an uncomfortable truth. And Madison, being a slave owner himself, must have been aware of this tension.
So his silence on slavery in this big national unity speech was strategic.
It's very possible. He may not have wanted to alienate people who oppose slavery. But at the same time, he couldn't very well openly endorse it in a speech about American ideals.
It makes you wonder how that silence landed with his audience at the time.
Were people thinking about this contradiction? Or were they so swept up in the patriotism of the moment?
Right.
It's hard to know.
It is, but it's a good point.
It is.
That even in times of national crisis, these underlying tensions and injustices don't just disappear.
They don't. They're still there.
Let's take a quick break. Want to equip your child with the skills of top global consultants? Don't let them fall behind. Raising Tomorrow's Leaders, The Consultant's Mindset by Dr. Jareau Almeyda is your guide to fostering essential skills in your children for their lifelong success. Available now on Amazon.
Okay, so we've got this incredibly skilled orator in Madison using all these rhetorical techniques to make his case for war. But let's actually zoom in on the language itself. Because Dr. Almeyda makes the argument that this speech is practically a work of art.
It really is. He knew exactly how to use language to get the effect he wanted. Remember, this was before microphones and teleprompters. He had to really think about how each sentence would flow, how it would impact the listener, both the people there and the people who would read it later.
So we're analyzing literature here.
Exactly.
More than just listening to someone talk off the cuff.
And that's what Dr. Almeyda's analysis gets really interesting. He digs into the layers of meaning.
Give me an example.
Take the way that Madison uses the word nation over and over. He's not just talking about a place. He's creating this sense of shared identity. That Americans are bound together by common ideals and aspirations.
It's like he's building this picture in your mind of we the people. And anyone who doesn't fit into that vision is excluded.
Like enslaved people.
Exactly.
It shows how language can unite and divide.
It really does. Okay, so Madison, master of word choice. What else does he have in his rhetorical toolbox?
Well, he was a big fan of metaphors and analogies. For instance, he compares the young American Republic to a ship of state sailing through dangerous waters.
Ooh, that's good. Makes me think about, uncertainty and storms, but also this idea that with the right leadership, we can make it through to safety.
Exactly. It's a powerful image.
It is.
And then you've got those phrases we talked about earlier, like the world's best hope, that tap into this sense of American exceptionalism.
It's like he's appealing to our fears and our aspirations.
Yes.
Weaving them together into this grand narrative.
Exactly. He acknowledges the difficulties, but he inspires hope and that determination to persevere.
It's amazing how these subtle choices in language can have such a big impact.
It really is. And it's a reminder that language isn't just about conveying information.
Right.
It's about shaping how we see things, influencing how we feel, and ultimately how we act.
Okay, so we've got Madison's word choice, his use of metaphors, his emotionally charged phrases. What else?
Well, this is where those rhetorical devices come in.
Right.
Parallelism and antithesis.
Right.
Dr. Almeyda points out how Madison uses these to create this sense of balance and reason.
Remind me again why those techniques are so powerful.
Think about parallelism like a lyrical hook in a song. It makes the language memorable and persuasive.
Sick rhymes.
Haha, kind of. And then antithesis is where you contrast opposing ideas, sharpening the argument and making the differences super clear.
Right. So he's informing people, but also persuading them, rallying them to the cause.
Tapping into their emotions, their patriotism, even their fears. He reminds them of the American Revolution, drawing parallels between that fight for freedom and the current struggle against Great Britain.
It's like we've beaten the odds before.
Yes.
We can do it again.
He connects the past to the present, using that shared history of overcoming challenges to inspire confidence and commitment.
And that's the power of language.
Exactly. It's not just about giving information, but shaping how we think, how we feel, and ultimately how we act.
It's really quite fascinating.
It is.
To think about how these subtle choices in language can have such a big impact.
Yeah.
All right, so Madison, wartime president, using every tool at his disposal to unite the nation, win the war. But here's what I'm wondering.
Go on.
If he was so concerned with national unity, why didn't he address the elephant in the room? Slavery.
Well, that's an excellent question, one that historians continue to debate.
Yeah, it's just fascinating to me how something that's not said
can
speak volumes.
Yeah.
Especially when we consider the context of the war and Madison's own position as a slave owner.
Yeah. It makes you think about the complexities of history and how even eloquent speeches can have these hidden layers.
Right. And speaking of hidden layers, what about Madison's use of emotionally charged phrases?
Well, absolutely.
Like sacred fire of liberty.
Those are key to understanding how Madison crafted his message.
Well, let's get into that. All right, so we're back, and we're going to unpack some of those powerful phrases that Dr. Almeyda highlighted in Madison's speech.
Okay.
Things like sacred fire of liberty.
Right.
It gives me chills. Just hearing that phrase.
These aren't just random words, you know. They're very carefully chosen to make you feel a certain way.
Okay.
And to tap into some pretty deep beliefs.
So it's not just what he's saying, but how he's saying it.
Exactly. Madison understood the power of imagery and symbolism.
Yeah.
He's using shared cultural ideas, even religious ideas about liberty. And he frames this war as this battle between good and evil.
We're the good guys.
Yes.
Fighting for freedom.
Exactly.
Who wouldn't want to be on that side?
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And it works because he's using beliefs and values that the audience already holds.
So we've got this incredibly skilled orator using these rhetorical techniques to make his case for war.
Right.
But let's step back for a second.
Oh, okay.
And think about what this means for us today.
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, because we're not facing a war against Great Britain. But we do have our own challenges and division.
We do, absolutely.
So how do Madison's ideas apply to contemporary issues?
Well, think about how he emphasized reasoned debate.
Okay.
Finding common ground even when you disagree.
Right.
He understood that a healthy democracy depends on citizens being informed and engaged, willing to listen to each other.
Even though he was leading a nation at war, he still believed in the importance of civil discourse.
I know.
Respecting different viewpoints.
It's remarkable.
It is. And I think it's something we need today.
I agree.
Especially now when it's so easy to just stay in our own little echo chambers and demonize anyone who thinks differently.
It's a reminder that democracy is tough.
It is.
But it's also about working together, even when we disagree.
Which requires listening and understanding and compromise.
Exactly. And Madison understood that.
And this speech, his second inaugural address, with its brilliant rhetoric and arguments, serves as a powerful reminder of how powerful language is.
It is powerful.
Shaping events, influencing perceptions, bringing people together.
Wow, what a deep dive.
I know we covered a lot today.
We did.
War, slavery, rhetoric, even some lessons for today.
It's incredible how these old speeches can still be so relevant.
Big thanks to Dr. Almeyda for his analysis of Madison's second inaugural.
His work really helped us unpack everything.
It did. I don't know about you, but but I'm ready to go back and reread some of these speeches.
Me too. Always something new to discover.
Thanks for joining us, everyone, for this deep dive into James Madison's world. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration of a presidential inaugural address.